Hi everyone, I'm Allison. Thank you for joining me for Where I'm From 141 with Jackie. What have you been reading? I'm reading The Age of Magical Overthinking by Amanda Montell. I don't know if you can hear my dog. Just relax. Um, I read Word Slut and Cultish, and this is her follow up to those books. And I'm really enjoying it. I really enjoy her books. Biases we live with that we may not be aware of, and uh, ways we navigate the world. And I like anything that kind of breaks down things like that. And it does. Hi, Jackie.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm so excited to be
I
here.
love your painting.
Oh, thank you. I think it's a Target special.
I like it. I mean, I'm in front of a bed. So I like my backgrounds are this bed, a bunk bed, a door. I don't really have,
Yeah, I do have this
yeah.
painting, which I guess is an antique at this point.
So nice work.
Thank
Um,
you.
would you like to chat a little or just want to read your poem? What would you
We
prefer?
could chat a little bit first.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, I see my friend Etta's here. Hi,
Yes,
Etta.
give people a minute. I
Yeah.
I love your poem. Do you
Oh,
want to talk about your journey
yeah.
with it a little before you read it?
Yeah. So you had reached out to me, I think last year, maybe.
Maybe. I don't, time is a little bit tricky for me, especially with these because they are scheduled
No, I
oftentimes,
appreciated the
far
notice
ahead.
because
So it's like
I'm
a
not.
while ago.
Yeah, but I don't know that I've written like a proper poem since I was about 13 and like used to write my little like love poems. So
Oh.
this was like such a fun. Yeah, I could bring some of those out next time maybe. Um,
Have you ever seen Mortified or heard of the show Mortified? Have you ever?
no,
Oh, it's
should
like,
I watch it?
no, it's like a live show. It sort of started when I was, I don't know, in my late 20s, and
Okay.
it's people reading like their old diaries or old love letters or on stage. Do I sound okay to you? Because to me, I
Yeah.
have weird things happening. Okay,
No,
good.
you sound great.
Okay.
I would say, yeah, that would be mortifying. I have like
Mm,
trotted them out occasionally
yeah.
because they're just so silly and
Yeah.
cute and sweet. But
And
um,
sincere and so
yeah,
like
absolutely.
self-serious, like as
Yeah.
if we were the first people. I mean, I never wrote any of
I
that stuff
do
because I was
recall
too.
one line that was like, "Just the thought of you can break my heart in two," and that
Mhm.
one always sticks out,
I mean, that sounds like a song lyric.
right? And
Hmm.
I was like writing about like some dumb 12-year-old boy in my class. Um,
I know, but
but
when
yes,
you're
but the
12,
journey,
you don't
yeah,
know
no,
that.
it was a big deal.
Yeah.
The journey to writing this poem. So the poem is about my grandmother who I lost last summer, but I feel like she's really instilled in me my like sense of family in many ways, and yeah, just like so much about my own personal history. So I know that you have chatted with Morgan Baker before, who
Hmm.
is one of my mentors and one of my truly favorite people. So I have written a couple of essays with her
Hmm.
about my grandmother. So I've used a bit of that, and I really like the poem I came out with, and it feels true to her spirit. So I'm excited to share it.
Well, I can't do a better introduction than that. So if you're
Oh,
ready to read it, I say go
thank you.
for it.
All right, I'm ready. I am from 10-gallon stainless steel pots filled with a red Sunday tomato sauce. From pastine, crushed tomatoes, and ronzoni pastina. I'm from the creaky Brooklyn apartment on 68th Street where my nanny Rose was born in the kitchen. Sweet and strong, olive oil and garlic cloves simmering fill my nose. I am from the bright red cherry tomatoes picked from the vine in the backyard, breaking through the concrete, crushed between our baby teeth, seeds and juice dripping down my sister's chin. Tastes like candy. I'm from Sunday dinners at 2 p.m., served after the guests are splashed with holy water from Nanny's personal supply. Kind hearts, warm eyes, and full stomachs. I am from Gina, Michael, and Gianna, from Rosemarie and her mother, Rosina. I'm from the Warriors and the Overcookers. From Did You Eat? And I Love You Too Much. I'm from the worshippers of St. Anthony, displayed on gold chains around their necks, prayer cards tucked in wallets. The people who hold a mass in his honor every year on a sticky August morning. Their personal altar in Mayapack, sand-colored stones stacked one by one so he would keep the boys safe during World War II. I am from New Jersey, but first Brooklyn, and before that Italy. From crowded tables with hand-rolled rice balls, fried meatballs stabbed with forks, passed around like lollipops, just to pick on before dinner. From the soft pink baby blankets my grandmother crocheted that live neatly folded with her unused yarn in my bedroom, made for the great grandchildren she'll never meet, but I know she's sending us. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, what a beautiful tribute.
Yes, and I will shout out my cousin just had the first great grandchild.
Oh,
Her name is Juliana. She's about 4 days old, so this
oh,
is a sort of a tribute to her as well.
yeah. Yeah. So did she make blankets for everyone?
Yes, she did. I have some of her
Oh.
blankets. She really stockpiled them. She was like very adamant about like every great grandchild will have a blanket from her, whether or not she's here. So we have like quite the collection. And then she made them all for her sons, and she used to knit, or she not knit, she used to crochet
Crochet.
hats. She really loved that, and she always was trying to teach me, and I was never very good at it. And she would rip out all my
I have
stitches.
tried to learn to crochet and knit because I know a lot of people who are masterful at it, and it is not my skill set.
No, mine either. I'm not like a detail-oriented girl, so
Hmm.
it really I got lost, but it was a fun activity to practice with
And I
her,
really
and she
admire people
really loved
like your grandmother who it's like second nature to them. You know,
it.
that they're so good at it. It's just, I'm in meetings or places where people are knitting or crocheting something while they're talking and participating, and I'm like, wow, I don't have
No, couldn't be
that
me.
setting.
I like had to focus. It was like totally zoned in, and then I still was screwing it up, and she'd be like, "We're starting over."
Yeah, I made a lot
But
of triangles
yeah,
because
she
I
was
would
great
just
at
add
that.
stitches. No, me,
She-
because I can't do a square.
oh, there you
So
go. That
yeah,
works.
it just keeps adding stitches. Not good. Um, but it also made me think of just how much more like we have quilts on my husband's side of the family, and those were so meaningful to me. Like these things that are passed down, but that are also useful.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a really nice way of looking at it too. And we got a quilt made out of a lot of her clothing after she passed
Oh,
that I have that I really, really love. I wish I knew the woman who made it for us, but it's one of my favorite things on earth, and it just reminds me of her. But yes, she created a lot of different blankets, a lot of different scarves, hats, and a lot of different food, of course.
yes, I want to eat. I wanted
I
to
know,
sit there and eat with
me
you, of
too.
course. Like,
Like,
I want
lunchtime.
meatballs to snack on.
Oh, she
What?
was always like that. She's like, oh, just to pick, just to pick. And it's like a log of
Yeah,
salami. It's like this is a meal.
yeah, yeah, all of that. And I thought also of my husband's grandparents too, with growing they would grow tomatoes and okra because they were in the South, but
Mm.
that kind of growing under any circumstances because of the flavor. And also, I think of the relationship with the food and the
Oh
preparing the
yeah,
food. And uh,
tomatoes are big.
yeah, and they are different, like no matter what, they're
Mhm.
different. Um, so I just, those were, I love it when poems especially bring back happy memories.
Yeah, yeah, there were
It's
a
like,
lot of happy memories. I shared it
yeah.
with it's this is my father's mother, but I shared the poem with my mother yesterday, and she said it reminded her of seeing my grandmother in Brooklyn. So that was really nice that I was able to provide that for them too.
It is. And so was the process of writing, what was the process like of writing this? You set out to do it and you did it?
Pretty much.
That's amazing.
But I mean, I really liked this. I felt like I was playing Mad Libs because
Yes.
obviously the poem follows like a certain
Hmm.
format, which was really fun for me. And also, it was a lot less pressure than writing like nonfiction, creative nonfiction essays, which is usually what I'm working on these days.
Hmm.
So I really loved it, honestly. And it just like gave me an excuse to talk about one of my favorite people on earth. So I really loved it. I might have to start writing more poems. I don't know.
It is really, I mean, I think it's a great prompt in that
It
it
is.
is liberating. It does make you feel masterful, like without having
Totally.
to work super
Totally. I
hard.
was like, I didn't realize I was such a poet.
I know. And I really feel like the spirit of Georgella is in that because she's such a generous, lovely person. And I think it comes across, I don't, it's, to me, it's a privilege to be a witness to watching somebody's work uh, reach out in this way, you
Yeah,
know?
and I loved like reading her poem, the poem that it was inspired,
Mhm.
or like the original, and then
Yeah.
all of the, I'm number what, like 140,
One. Mm-hmm.
144, yeah. So it was
41. 141.
41. So cool to see. It sees, I see 1 4 on the top of my screen. So. It was just really interesting to see everybody else's take on it and like how
Yeah.
so many things like stood out to me from their works and like all these tiny little details. I'm really into, I mean, I think all writers love storytelling and details,
Hmm.
but those little details make it for me. So it was fun to see everybody else's and then see what I was able to add into mine too.
Yeah. And I think those details, I was intellectually into them before I started this, but it's now like it strikes me every time. Like it hits me
Isn't
how
that cool?
important they are. Yeah. And it's a it's a little school for me on concrete details because those are the things that reach me and touch and remind me and
Yeah,
speak
because
to
it's
me.
like you slot in your own experiences, right? Like I read on your page, someone said something about like the clear like swim bonnets
Hmm.
that she mentioned in her poem, and I've never worn a swim bonnet,
Hmm.
but like the image of that really just like stuck with me, and I was like, oh, that's an interesting thing. But you know, like my first item was a 10-gallon pot of sauce, so different
Yes.
world, but it was just like cool to see that so much can come from just a prompt, you know? So
Yes. And a 10-gallon pot of sauce, I immediately thought of a 10-gallon hat when I first read 10 gallon, so that was a fun twist too. Like,
yes,
oh,
most people do think that when I write it in my essays too, and I'm trying to figure out a way around it, but maybe it's just they're gonna think of a cowboy hat and
right.
okay.
And I think you're exploring a different identity. And I mean, you're not, apparently, you're trying to find a way to get around it, but I think it's very powerful to sort of
Okay.
have it swerve in that way. Like, oh, we're talking about like, sort of this cowboy American identity. And it's like,
Yeah,
no,
and
I'm not
it's the
talking about that
opposite.
one.
Yeah.
I'm talking about,
Oh, that's a good point.
yeah,
All right.
I think it works.
I'll take
Yeah,
that. I'll take that. Thank
you're welcome.
you.
And I think it's a good prompt too if you are writing creative nonfiction. Like even if you aren't going to use the poem, I think it can. For me, it's not like I use it concretely every time I'm exploring a certain time in my life, but it's definitely in me that I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, what was it like? What was a thing? What, even if I don't write about those things in the essay, it just kind of helps me ground myself in a time in the past that I
Yeah, I love
remember, but I have to be like, a little bit nudged to remember in
I
a
love
way that I
like
write about it.
comprehension.
Yeah.
And even like with this, I think the meatballs passed around like lollipops. Like that's something that I've tried to write about in other essays, but I was like, oh, it just fit perfectly here. So it's fun to like. I'm sure you can relate. You probably like. I have like a whole document of like random sentences that I'm like, someday this will be great. It'll fit somewhere.
Little
But
pieces.
yes, pieces,
Hmm.
little bits. So yeah, it was fun to use some of those too, and like really just got my creative brain working here. So
Yay. I love that.
yeah.
I'm glad that it gives you something because you're giving me your time and your
Oh
poem.
my
So I'm
God.
happy that it gives you something in return.
Well, you're giving me this lovely conversation and the opportunity to do it. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Mhm.
Um, so anything else that you want to talk about?
Mm, let's see. No, no, not in particular. I think let's see. I am yeah, I'm working on a book of essays. I've always been working on a book of essays about family and our bodies and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. It'll probably be here in another 10 years. Look
It is
out.
a process.
No, it
As
really
a
is.
person who's also working on a book of essays,
Yeah,
I mean, now it's finished. It's in
that's good.
edits. Yeah. But it's like now I think I'm at the point where I like it and I'm proud of it. And I'm very nervous to do the next thing.
Isn't that scary?
Yeah.
Like, because then it's like other people, because yeah, because
Because
art is
I
subjective.
like it.
Yeah,
I'm
and like
happy
you're
with
like,
what I
I want
did.
it to be this
Mhm.
now.
Yeah. And I also, it's really vulnerable.
I know. Yeah, that's the thing too. It's like
Hmm.
it's hard to get receive. I mean, I've been working as a journalist for a really
Hmm.
long time, so I don't get like uh insulted by edits very
No,
often.
no, me
But
neither. I mean,
that was kind of like beat out of me. But I
yeah.
think when you're writing about topics like this, it can be like, wait, like you don't actually know that person. Like, how could you say to remove that detail? Like,
Hmm.
so it's different, right? It's a
Yeah.
very different editing
Well,
process.
and I mean, like you, I'm not a journalist, but I've been writing a long time, and I had an MFA, and that was brutal, and people were not nice.
I'm sure.
I find that most people are much kinder now in
Mhm.
my life with feedback, and I've also constructed my life that I know who I want to ask, like
Yes.
who who is going to read my work, and who do I want feedback. Like I used to just get feedback from people who would never read my work, which
Right.
is not helpful in any way.
Like I used to
So,
do that all the
oh
time,
my
and I
God,
would be like,
why?
wait, I actually don't want their feedback. I just want them to tell me that they love it, and that's
Yeah.
not what I asked them for. So,
And they're not
um,
going to do that
no, no,
probably
no.
because they aren't the audience. Because
Yeah,
so they're like, well, I don't like this.
right, right. And it's like,
So that tracks.
yeah, it's funny. I
So
think
it's
that's
also
such a
just
value
putting it
though.
out into the world. Like, I mean, you've written some vulnerable personal pieces, as have I. And it's, and the first time I did it, the morning I did it, I was like
Oh,
anxious and couldn't sleep and was like, oh my God, I'm exposing this part of myself to the world. And I'm going to talk about it on my social media. I'm not publishing it and like not telling anyone, you
yeah,
know?
I think it's tempting to publish it and not tell anyone. I definitely like had
Totally.
that, like like you're saying, I wrote a vulnerable piece for Women's Health last
A
year
great
about
piece, a really great piece.
thank you, about healing from sexual trauma.
Hmm.
And when I published it, I kind of wanted to be like, well, we're just going to pretend that doesn't
Yep.
exist. And I was like so anxious leading up to it. My body reacts with like nausea a lot if I'm
Yeah,
nervous. So that was
me
like
too.
me that whole day.
Hmm.
And then I think you come to this realization that like we're actually not the centers of the universe. And you know what? Like nobody really read it from my life
Isn't
that I
it
was so concerned
interesting?
about. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it was just another Wednesday.
Yeah. I mean, I think because mine was during the pandemic and it was at the beginning and a lot of people were bored, people
Yeah,
did
people were
read it.
available.
And it was kind of like, oh, it was about me being a victim of George Tyndall at USC. So I think a lot of people that I went to USC with were
Sure.
like, oh, and it was just something everyone was starting to talk about that this man sexually assaulted thousands of women and USC did nothing.
Yeah,
So it was
horrible.
just kind of this like, it's one of those like pulls back the
Yeah,
illusion
because you
of
don't.
a place.
Yeah, and then also like I think it's difficult to get feedback from people that knew you at that time in your life and could be like, oh, like but I didn't know that was
Oh,
going
for
on.
sure.
Or
I mean,
yeah,
nobody knew. I wasn't
yeah,
telling
no,
anyone. I mean, to me, sadly, because of because of past sexual assaults, I sort of was just like, oh, I have to just never see this guy again.
yeah,
I didn't even really, a friend of mine did write a letter after seeing him. I mean, it didn't even occur to me. I was just like, oh, he's a creep,
hmm
like so many other creeps I've interacted with in my life. Like, I didn't think like anyone would do anything.
right.
And
Because I
they
think that's what we,
didn't.
yeah, that's
they,
what
they, in
often
fact,
happens,
did not
unfortunately.
do anything for a long time. And um, yeah, she wrote them a letter and nothing happened. So, but it was I think for some reason a book feels more. I mean, it's like writing a million essays. I mean, not a million, but it's a whole bunch. And
Yeah, because it's everything,
yeah,
right?
and it just feels like I think also it's me writing more honestly about my littlest self, and that is she's like, "Are you sure?"
Are we sure we want to open this up
Yeah,
for debate and conversation? Yeah, no, I can totally hear that, and I think like when I'm writing for, like I said, I do Morgan Baker's
yeah,
workshop. She's my favorite. She was my favorite professor in college. I will follow her until the end of the
She's
year.
wonderful. I
Yeah,
do co-writing with her. I see her
yes,
usually like once a week.
she's so, so great.
She's also very
Um,
funny.
yeah, she's hysterical too, so I love her. But yeah, so I write a lot for workshop that I'm like, these people know me better than like most of my friends do now.
I
It's
know,
like
it's
I've
funny.
never shared these thoughts with anyone, but there's so many women in that group and like that I've met through that actually like I did go to college with, but I didn't know them,
Mm,
and now we've like all kind of like connected through Morgan and these workshops, and it's been such a blessing really to like find these other writers, and it's nice that you have co-writers too. Like that's such a fun
I
thing
mean,
to do with
I
people.
wouldn't do it without community.
Yeah.
Like I'm fully honest and transparent about that.
Yeah,
Like
it's
if I
hard.
did not have support, yeah, of readers too, like of people who just are
Yeah.
supportive of my work, like I would not, I just would stop.
Yeah,
So I think I try to encourage any writers I know or creative people at all. Like, I mean, you need people who you're in this with.
yeah, and you need people that like can read it and be like, this might make sense in your brain, and it makes sense because I know you. But you know, like Susie Lou driving, like picking up the newspaper down the street is not going to know what you're talking about. So that's always nice to hear too. And it's a kind, I think, whenever I find writers that like can provide like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like sharp and honest feedback, but also be really kind about it. That's like, those are my people.
Yeah, for sure. You got to be kind. I mean,
Yeah, it's like it's
to
not
me, it's a necessity.
really worth being
Like
mean.
somebody is
Yeah.
laying their soul bare. You got to treat it with care. Oh, I made
Yeah.
a, hey, there's my song lyric for the day.
There you go. Treat it with
They're
care.
laying their soul bare. Treat it with care.
And
Okay.
what was mine? Yes. Oh, split my heart in two.
Yep. Yep. Whenever I think of you, it splits my heart in two.
That's
Right?
beautiful. Yes,
Okay. Well, well, that seems like a lovely place to wrap.
I agree.
And I so go out there and think of your own song lyrics, everyone.
Yes.
Um, thank you for joining me, Jackie. This was a pleasure.
Thank
And thank you
you.
to Morgan for introducing or being the connection
Yes.
between us. I appreciate
Thank you,
that.
Morgan. Just for
She's
sending.
watching the replay because she's teaching.
Yeah, I
Okay,
know.
great
She said
now.
she was busy today,
Yeah,
but she wished me luck, which was sweet.
sweet.
So yes, thank you so much, Allison. This was
Yes,
such a fun exercise and really a beautiful way to honor my grandmother. So thank
it
you for that
was
opportunity as well.
beautiful. I feel like she was present with us
I
for
think so
sure.
too. I have her
Yeah.
ring on today, so
Oh,
mhm.
that's lovely.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jackie, and thank you for everyone who
Thank
was here.
you.
Okay.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.